Hey, good evening. Streamer season is here now upon us. Lakes like Center Hill, which feeds the Caney Fork River, are turned over now, and the lake surface temperatures are cooling quickly, so we expect to start seeing shad coming through the dams now with higher flows. This can be a really exciting time of year, and this fly I'm going to tie for you tonight was actually originally designed for dead and dying shad being swept through dams. I actually originally designed this fly for large striped bass below dams here in the Tennessee Valley, and it's been responsible for stripers up to about 30 pounds. Usually sight fished, which is pretty cool, but any type of shad kill situation, this fly really works well. It's caught some really big trout over the years. It even works in scenarios where you don't expect shad to be, like the Great Smoky Mountains, and I'm not really sure what the fish eat it for there, but they definitely will eat it. So without any further ado, here's what goes into this fly. First of all, the hook is something sharp, preferably mustad hook or Gamakatsu B10S Stinger is a good hook for this fly. Originally tied this fly with Mustad 34011. They don't make those. It's an old hook anymore, so I've had to kind of adapt and look other places. Also going to include some weight in this fly because I want it to get down. Lead eyes and a medium is what I'm going to use tonight. You can use a lead-free if you want to also. I use Enrico Puglisi fibers, EP fibers, just in white for this pattern. Zonker strips, and you can use regular, which is what I'm using tonight, or you can use the Magnum Zonker strips if you want. And I'm going to use just a bright red dubbing. You could also use a red EP fibers if you want for that part. This is the PB&J that we're tying tonight. Puglisi, Bunny, and Jelly. The red is the jelly, and you'll kind of see where it comes into this fly. So let's go ahead and get started. You see I have my thread started here just behind the eye of the hook, and we're going to go ahead and tie in some lead eyes. For this particular fly, I have generally preferred to tie the flies in on the bottom. I know some patterns you tie them in on top because you want that hook to ride point up, but this particular pattern, the situation that I originally was tying it for, it was better to tie this fly with the point riding down. And in the intervening years, I've just kind of kept up that tradition. So you can play around with it. You can do whatever you want as far as where you're going to tie that in. Just adjust the steps accordingly. The main key here is that the way we're tying this fly, the EP fibers are going to be the bottom or belly of the fly, and the bunny rabbit or zonker strips are going to be the top or back of the fly. So really kind of crank down on that thread. I'm using white 6/0, just basic uni thread, and kind of lock those eyes in. At this point in the fly, I found it really useful, just some real basic super glue. Keeps those eyes there longer, better. Super glue is actually a really nice tool for any kind of streamer pattern when you're needing to lock down materials. So that's what we're going to add right there. I'm going to go in a few more wraps here now that I've got my super glue in there. And that looks pretty good. So at this point in the fly, we are going to wrap all the way to the bend of the hook. And you can speed things up by using your rotary feature. Be careful when you get back there not to nick the thread too badly. I'm going to just kind of build up a thread base here, and you'll see here in a minute what that's going to do for us. That looks pretty good. And alright, we're just right there, back there where the hook bend starts. And at this point, I've got some bunny rabbit ready to go. And of course, I seem to have misplaced it. There it is. And I've got a section. You can kind of see my measuring here. So I've got the beginning of it right here behind the hook eye. And I've got a section about the gap of a hook or a little bit wider, extending on out kind of the tail vicinity. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it there for measuring purposes, and I'm going to find where's that point where it lines up with the thread. And at that point, I'm going to gather the fibers, stroke them forward so I've got room for the thread to tie in without bunching up the hair fibers. Try to get it nice and straight across. And this part, take your time, get it right. And tie it in 1, 2, 3. And it should be sitting nicely on top at this point. You can just wrap that forward, continue building up that body. We're going to want a nice thick thread body before we get done. So we've got our bunny in place and kind of just bend it out of the way. It's not really long enough to get it all the way back to our materials clip in on the vise there, but it should be good. So at this stage, EP fibers come in these great big bundles. You don't need that whole bundle. You need just a little bit. So you can see here I've got just a little small amount here that I've peeled off, and this is kind of one of those things that experience is what you're going to need just to get it right as far as the quantity. Once you get that amount, we're going to start in the very back and underneath the hook. Try to gather. Already got extra EP fibers floating around. Try to gather that underneath the hook, and you should be able to. So after the first wrap, I'm going to grab those fibers and slide them all back under the hook, or else they're going to start wrapping around that hook shank on you. 1, 2, 3 should be enough. And 1 wrap, and then we're going to come back on to the bottom and tie forward with that clump of EP fibers. And once I get back a couple, 3 wraps, we're going to give it 1 good turn, and then I'm going to double back on itself so that that clump of fibers is kind of hanging down towards the bottom. I'm going to use my scissors at this stage and just kind of cut it off kind of short. We don't need to cut it all the way to where we're going to want it later. There'll be plenty of time to trim this up nicely later, but we're going to tie another clump in, kind of the same deal. You can go just a hair longer than where we cut that off so we have a little extra to play with. Tie this on right where we made that turn with the fibers the last time. That turn is going to do us a favor right now. It's going to kind of push the fibers out to help create bulk. We want to be forming a body at this stage. So once you get it in there, give it 3 wraps or so. Give it 1 good one, and then wrap forward again underneath the hook, and 3, and then we're going to do the same thing. Come back 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's tight. Use the scissors again, and we're just going to kind of continue this, building up the body here. Same thing. 1, pull it down. 2, there it's locked. 3 to make sure. 1 time under, and then we'll wrap that clump forward, and you should kind of see this pattern here. And double back. 1, 2, 3. That's good. It's not going anywhere. We'll do this 1 more time. We're getting real close here. So clump underneath. 1 time to gather it. Make sure everything's slid under. And 1, 2 more wraps. That should stay. And right here, we're getting kind of borderline as far as the quantity that we're working with and the spacing. I'm going to go ahead and tie this one back like we've been doing, but I'm going to tie it back a little tighter, and you'll see why here in just a second. I need that space behind the hook eye. So we're at this juncture where we've got those EP fibers tied in. We've got our bunny tied in. We got some extra EP fibers just kind of sticking out back there, and we'll see what we do with those in just a minute. Right now I'm going to go ahead and grab my dubbing. and at this stage I don't need a whole lot of dubbing, so any kind of a long fiber dubbing will work. The original that I started tying this pattern with was I believe a Jorgensen steelhead dubbing, I think called Fiery Blood Red. But like I said, anything will work at this stage as long as it's a little bit longer fibers and red. Like I said, this is the jelly part of this PB&J. You can see I've got just a little small clump here. Like I said, you can use red EP fibers if you want. I'm going to catch this clump right in the middle and tie it in like a throat with a little bit of showing some blood. So this is quite possibly not absolutely necessary to this pattern. It may be something that catches fishermen more than it does fish. I don't know, but I've always thought of red as a trigger with a lot of fish, so that little bit of red in there is going to do something for us, whether it's more for us or for the fish, I couldn't tell you. As soon as I get that tied in, I'm getting pretty slim on this bundle of EP fibers. I may need to get another one, but I'm going to go ahead and finish the one I've got off, and we're going to just continue. I'm going to tie one in here right behind the eyes, but in front of that red, and then I'm going to come to the front of those eyes, catch those fibers again, and tie them back. And they're short enough we don't need to gather any extras. I'm gonna grab just a little bit more EP fibers over here. I don't need much more, but you'll see we'll get just a little bit more going here. And we're going to tie in one more clump. Gather it underneath. One, two, three, four. Now this part, I want to start building up that head a little bit. I'm just going to clip that there for now. And right now it looks a little scruffy and scraggly, and that's okay. We're going to clean all this up here in a little bit. This next step, we're almost done with this fly. This is pretty much it. But this next step is really essential. We're going to put a bead of super glue down the back on that built up body, and that's going to help keep our bunny strip where it needs to be. It will catch that super glue as soon as it hits it. Tie it down in front. May have got some super glue bunched into my hair there. It's not too bad. I'm going to give it a half hitch and whip finish. 2, 3, 4, 5. One, 2, 3, 4. And we're done. So looking pretty scruffy, you can see. All I'm going to do at this stage is I'm going to take some scissors and shape it so that it looks like shad. And this is really best done in your hand. Generally I just pull it out of the vise so that you can kind of see what I'm doing. I'm going to give it my best shot doing it here in the vise. I'm going to come just above that hook point. And then kind of stroke all those fibers down again. Make sure that you get everything the way you want it. It's looking pretty good there. And there you have it. That would be the PB&J Puglisi, Bunny, and Jelly. Tie a few up. I mostly tie this particular pattern in the 1.5 to 2.5 or 3 inch range as far as overall size, and I usually tie them on a number 1 or 2 hook, although you could go both directions with that. So let me know if you have any questions, and I hope you're able to get out there and enjoy the shad kill this year. And if you do, make sure you have a few of these along with you. Coming up, maybe we'll look at some other patterns for the shad kill, but until then, hope this one works well for you.